Hi, my name is Angelica Torres, and this is my video out. The magnitude of the change that we're creating, but just by telling our stories so publicly, that is giving, at the very least, one person hope. And that's all we can really ask for. That's all we can ask for, is just to touch the life of, at the very least, one trans or non-binary or gay or lesbian youth and say, you are not alone. I know how hard it is. We all understand how hard it is to exist comfortably, and I'm already getting into it. But no, we're giving back to the youth everything that we wish we would have had as a kid. So I am originally from El Barrio, which is borderline Upper East Side and Spanish Harlem. And so growing up in El Barrio, it was rather difficult for a child that was assigned male at birth, but presented very effeminate. So I had very feminine mannerisms. I spoke in a very feminine and soft spoken voice. I had a little switch in my walk. And to grow up in a neighborhood that was predominantly black and brown people, there was a great deal of hypermasculinity. There was a pressure on me, not just from my blood relatives, but from the people that I grew up with in my neighborhood, the people that I went to school with. There was this this pressure to present as something that I was not, and that caused me a great deal of discomfort. It caused me a great deal of depression and anxiety, and a feeling as though I should not have been alive. I was teased and bullied tremendously. I had very little to no friends and very little to no allies. Nobody to tell me that I was not a mistake or that I was okay. As a feminine child who was assigned male at birth, I never had any adults telling me that I was okay for the way that I was. It was quite the opposite. It was a lot of shaming. It was a lot of homophobia, transphobia into my latter years and to my teen years. And it was just a very uncomfortable and difficult time for me to get through, having grown up in that particular neighborhood. So on average, I like to remind people, because I get that question often, of when did you know that you're a woman, or when did you know that you're trans? And for me personally, I always pose the question back to them, because it's usually cis people that are asking me this question. And trans people tend to ask it too, but predominantly it's cis folks. And on average, they're very stunned by this question, because they're so accustomed to asking us, when did you realize that you're trans, that they don't tend to realize how silly that question is. And they're like, I don't know. I just always knew. And so to that I say, that's my answer. That is precisely my answer. I always knew that I identified as a female. I always knew that my energy was very feminine, and I always knew that I aligned more with presenting as a female, identifying as a female, and of course there's a whole wanting to play with Barbies as a child, and wanting to wear girls' clothing, and wanting to dress up in all pink. But I like to remind people it goes so far beyond just the toys and the clothing. It's more about your spirit and your soul. And for me, I've always identified as a female, despite the fact that I had a lot of adults that would tell me otherwise and try to reframe my way of thinking, and them constantly trying to force me to believe that I was not a woman or that I was not a girl. And that was very difficult. I don't think there was any one particular moment where I thought to myself that, or knew that I was female. It's just a notion that came very naturally to me. I would observe the other boys in my class or in my neighborhood playing basketball, or just presenting with their utmost masculine energy. And here I was with a bunch of adults around me, essentially trying to force feed this information to me that I'm a boy and that this is how I should be. I should love to play with monster trucks. I should be wanting to play basketball. And those things were just never stuff that interested me personally. And now I even find that narrative problematic, because there are females that like to play basketball and like to play baseball and sports and present very sporty, I would say. And for me, but I myself, those were things that I was never interested in. But society around me would tell me that because I was assigned male at birth, that these are the things that I should want to do, and these are the things that I should be doing, as opposed to what felt naturally to me. And so I naturally gravitated towards dolls and and wanting to play dress up, and these were things that I was just not allowed to do. And early on as a child, I grew very frustrated of having to box myself in to what society was telling me that I should be. I was thinking about this the other day. The Little Mermaid is one of my favorite Disney films, despite how problematic it is.
Sure.
And let's be honest, all Disney princess films are problematic. But I just especially gravitated towards Ariel's story and her tenacity and her feeling, as a trans person, feeling as though I am not entirely comfortable in my own body and in my own environment. And I begged Lisa for the longest time to get me the Little Mermaid VHS tape at the time. I'm dating myself. But I really, really wanted that movie, and she never got it for me, ever. And I recognize that she did that because she did not want me to have that particular film. Like, she got me films like Aladdin and The Jungle Book. Noticing a theme here, like all male focused Disney films. But when it came down to having The Little Mermaid, she was just not about it at all. There was just little microaggressions, little shameful things here and there in my childhood that I remember, and I'm like, oh, no wonder I was terrified of disclosing to her my trans status. Like, it makes sense. it is so incredibly freeing to be able to question all the things that you were conditioned to believe in at an early age. Now, as an adult, we're able to sit back and say, do I actually agree with this, or do I align with this way of thinking? Absolutely not. I'm 32 years old. I'm still figuring so much shit out from my life, and now in a place where I can question, was this right? Like, are boys only allowed to like blue and they can't like pink, or do I have to choose, or do I have to like put myself into a box when it comes to my gender identity, when it comes to my sexual orientation, all of these things? Life is so much less black and white than people like to make it out to be, but people are lazy. They're lazy and they're uncomfortable going outside of these binaries. What would I want to say to her tonight? I've thought about this often. I've thought a great deal about what I would want to say to Lisa if she were right in front of me. And I try to come at it not from a place of anger, despite the fact that I am angry. I'm very angry with how I was raised and all of the trauma that I endured at her hand, at the hands of my blood relatives. And the first thing that would really come to mind is, do you realize that you taught me how to hate myself? Oh, sorry. I would just want her to realize that she was one of the people that taught me to hate myself because I was an effeminate child, and I would want to know why. I would love to one day know why. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
the most inopportune time.
It's okay. There's so much to tackle within our own community in terms of the internalized racism within our community, internalized homophobia, internalized transphobia. I myself have dealt with my fair share of transphobia from my trans sisters. I've also, and I'm sad to say this, I've also perpetuated transphobia years ago, mostly in my teen years. And I realized that it's a learned behavior as well. And when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, I had a lot of trans elders, and not very much older than me, but within my age range, that would use certain language when referring to our trans sisters. So some trans women like to throw around the word tranny or call other trans women bricks because they do not fit into the heteronormative standards in which they deem necessary for trans women. And I've been speaking a lot about this with not just my non-binary friends, but also my cis gay male friends, how femme-presenting people, either gay or non-binary, are shunned in the community. And I find it fascinating how we're supposed to be this grand community that's looking out for each other, and yet here we have cis gay white males discriminating against gay femmes and trans women, or trans women discriminating against other trans women because they're not cis assuming. And I think it's incredibly unfair for us to be expecting others to support us and to be there for us when we're attacking our own brothers and sisters and non-binary family. I find it disgraceful and disgusting that we're still in an age where we're tearing each other down, and we also have the rest of the world, the cis hetero heads out there that are attacking us and murdering our black and brown trans sisters, and meanwhile we're perpetuating the same kind of violence with each other. And that's what really frustrates me. If we could come to a point where we stop hating on each other for the color of our skin, how we present, if a non-binary person chooses to tuck or not, or whatever, just all of these nonsensical things that we hate on each other for, if we could just stop that bullshit and get to know each other more and get to a place where we say to ourselves, like, okay, I don't necessarily agree with everything that this person is about, but also it's not my place to tear them down either, then I think we could actually get somewhere in terms of our advocacy and being allies to each other instead of, again, tearing each other down. Because how the hell are we supposed to get anywhere in this world in terms of owning our rights if we're just attacking each other constantly? Oh, what gives me hope in this day and age is seeing the very slow progression of being represented as a trans female, as someone that loves my community, issues and all. It's important for me to see the representation that I never saw as a child. And so the fact that we have trans women that are doing grand, amazing things, the fact that I see some of my non-binary friends that are slaying in the world and doing incredible things, that's what's giving me hope, because our younger generation is seeing all of this, and now they're able to see the possibilities. They're able to see what they can accomplish. It's no longer a time where if you are LGBTQIA that you don't feel represented anymore. Despite the fact that we still have a very long way to go in terms of representation when it comes to people of different socioeconomic backgrounds and ethnicity, race. As I was saying earlier, being a femme in this world, in this society, and how that's frowned upon. I'm seeing more representation for everybody. I would love to, but again, I would also love to get to a place where we're seeing and celebrating bigger bodies, for instance, because I've started noticing that certain outlets for our community, they tend to post a lot about the very cis-assuming trans people, or they will highlight community members with very svelte bodies and muscles and six-pack abs. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, where are the bigger bodies? Where are the stretch marks? Where are the love handles? I would love to see all of us represented. And I think there will come a time when we will get there. I think it will happen eventually. So I've been doing very extensive therapy for the past year and a half, and also been doing some spiritual work recently. So I probably wasn't able to answer this question a year ago in terms of what I love most about myself, because a year ago I didn't love much of anything about myself. But I think that one of the things that I love the most about myself is the fact that I am so unselfish, that I look out for my community, that I do my damnedest to uplift my community and uplift the people that I know and love and cherish, and that I make sure that they are seen, that they are heard, that they know that they are loved and that they are beautiful. That is something that is so important to me, because those are things that I did not grow up with. As I said earlier, I was taught very early on to hate myself, and I did for a very long time. And so my love for people is one of my favorite things about myself, because in a world where everybody's always looking out for themselves and money is the root of all evil, and I'm more concerned about others. And I'm coming to a place where I'm putting that love inward and showing myself the love that I have not shown myself in the past. But I certainly want to continue to spread that love and that awareness to everybody that feels as though that they are not being seen or heard or loved or represented. What I would love to see is trans people being given more job opportunities. I used to work at Viacom, and as a trans person, I tend to have this spidey sense, I call it, where you can usually tell if another trans person is in the room or in the building. You just get that sense. And while I was at Viacom, I noticed that there were very few trans and non-binary people. And I started thinking about it in terms of the hierarchy of our company and how there is a complete and utter lack of diversity and inclusion throughout the entire company and throughout many organizations, and how trans people are not given the job opportunities that I myself have been able to afford as someone that is assuming, which is a privilege. I'm very grateful that I'm at a place in my life where I am able to access spaces safely and comfortably, whereas a visibly trans person might not be. And I've been there as well. Like I had to deal with applying for jobs when my identification didn't match what I was presenting. I had been clocked, so I know what that feels like. And what I would love is to get to a place in life and in society where a trans or non-binary person can go to apply for a job, and there's none of that snarky bullshit of looking at the ID and then looking at the applicant and back and forth, just essentially making them feel incredibly uncomfortable. I would love to see more trans CEOs. I would love to see more trans senior vice presidents of Black and brown people. That to me would be fantastic, as if we could really diversify the workforce and give these trans people an opportunity. Because again, when we're growing up, we're made to feel like shit. We're made to feel as though we don't have any opportunities out there. And in turn, we're made to feel as though we have to change who we are at our core just to survive in this world, which is fucked up. So I would love to see more people hiring trans people and giving them the opportunities that they deserve.